Welcome to the Stepfamily Saturdays series with your Stepfamily guides. We are here to lead you through the everyday challenges of your stepfamily journey. I'm Adrienne, and with me today are my fellow Stepfamily guides, Amelia and Amy. We also have a special guest joining us. Welcome, Val.
Hi, thank you for having me here.
Of course. How are you?
Great. How are you guys?
We're good. Great. Excited to pick your brain and learn from you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Wonderful. So Val is a paraeducator and former lead preschool teacher. She's also a certified stepfamily coach who helps stepfamilies reach positive co-parenting goals and helps them realize their potential within their family. Outside of being a step-parent coach, she has a family she loves, including a husband of 14 years, a beautiful teenage stepdaughter, and two handsome young sons. She enjoys going on travel adventures and making happy memories with her family. If you're looking for decorating or baking ideas for each holiday, Val is your go-to girl. So we love connecting with Val and working with her in stepfamily coaching work. So today we're talking about back to school time and how it works best with stepfamilies and teachers collaborating for the best interest of kids. So with that, I will turn it over to Amy.
Thanks so much, Adrienne. So Val, we wanted to start with just going into the beginning of the school year, and we were curious, are there common indicators or maybe specific signs that teachers see that helps them pick up like which kids are stepfamily kids versus a nuclear family kiddos? We were just kind of curious if there were indicators that you guys pick up on.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because a lot of times as teachers, we don't know the students' backgrounds when they first start school. So they're coming in, we're thinking, everybody's great, everybody, the family's great. We don't know. Everything is perfect when it first starts. So no, unfortunately, unless we are told straight up that, of their family situation, we have no idea. Unless, like I said, unless there's a situation that we should be aware of, we have no idea.
Okay.
So when a teacher does know that they have a student coming into their classroom from a stepfamily, do you have any tips for proactive ways they can prepare for having that student coming into their classroom?
Absolutely. Usually at the beginning of the school year, depending on the school district or the schools that you're in, each school usually typically has an open house. This is where a lot of the times the teachers will send out a flyer getting to know your family, your student. So one thing that I like to see is in the classrooms is when the teachers will put, does your child live with you full time? Is, who are their family members? Who do they live with? If you want to add any additional family members, the dogs, the cats, just kind of about me, let's get to know your child. So that's a huge learning technique for teachers to figure out kind of the background without asking, what is your background?
Yeah, it's kind of learning the players of the game, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. That's kind of like the tips of the trade, so.
Yeah, so speaking of communication, from your experience, is it mainly up to the child to ensure that communication is going to both sets of parents, or have you found that teachers and administration are trying to minimize the child being put in the middle and having to play that role, and they're willing to partner with both households or anybody involved?
Yes, and we've come as a step parent myself, we've come with this as a situation within our school district, only because the school districts usually are the ones that will send out all the flyers or any information just pertaining to registering for the school or signing up your kids for extra stuff. So we had a situation with our school district. We're the largest school district in Minnesota. Basically, they only had one input to where they could only have one main household. And so they didn't have an extra slide where they could put a second household to. So we were not getting any of the main information. So, I think that's kind of where the communication situation comes up for a lot of schools, because even as a largest school district within Minnesota, there's other smaller school districts that don't have that technology to do that. So unfortunately, that is where the child gets put in the middle of, I need my mom, I need my dad to both know this information. And that causes a lot of stress on the child, causes a lot of stress on the teacher, because the teachers are like, all right, which house are you going to today? That's not their problem to worry about. And it's not the child's problem to worry about either. And so I think that needs to bring more awareness to each school district. And I don't know if it's just the technology or what's going on. I don't know the terminology, but the school district should be the one that are working with the families and not the teacher or the child.
Yeah, it's probably slightly different depending on where you live as well. I know for us in California, we have all digital records now, and both parents can go in and update the information for the child, put email addresses, home addresses, all of those pieces of information.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's kind of where it gets kind of tricky, because, what do you do?
It's tough.
You were talking about, activity flyers, things like that. We were talking when we were preparing for this interview, we were talking about report cards, which I have to be honest, we were laughing because Adrian and I, being in the United States, along with you, everything's digital. And then Amelia was sharing with us that they still get paper report cards where they have to sign and send it back in the envelope. So that got us thinking, so what can parents do when there's one report card, two sets of families? What would you recommend Stepfamilies do to communicate with the school on that one?
Yeah, and that's a great question to talk about report cards, because I actually have experience with this within our own family as well. Before everything kind of went digital, we had that situation where everything was being mailed to only the biological mom of my stepdaughter, and she would have to make copies of that report card and have my stepdaughter give it to me. And so that's kind of where a situation came in, and my husband contacted the school district and said, you can't do that, that's not fair, because I don't want to put that on her mom to do that. And it's just a sticky situation. And yeah, now that technology is coming better, that I think that should bring more awareness of letting each family be able to see that. And luckily, our school district just went to digital, I think, within the past couple of years as well. So now we can view the high school and middle schools online. Unfortunately, the elementary is still paper. So there's that. But I think the best situation they can do is just have a good communication with the school, contact the school directly, contact the secretary, let them know the situation, and that they should mail, if your school doesn't have a way where they can just automatically mail one out to each household, call the school directly and talk to the secretary and see if they can manually write one out with envelope to the school or to your house.
Great tips. And it's so surprising for those of us who are in this field of step family help and coaching and all of that, because we know the majority of kids come from a step family situation or a blended family situation. We're like, why are the schools not already aware of this and just making this a normal part of the day? So I almost feel like we need to advocate for the districts now to step up, and it has me wondering, I need to find out what our district does, just out of curiosity.
No, and it's great. A lot of the times these schools, if, we're all in this step family situation where, we get it. But if you're not in this whole step family life, you don't understand all the backgrounds behind it. So if you're not in it, you don't understand until you live it.
That's a great point.
We talk so much about in our own step family coaching, not putting the kids in the middle. And it kind of seems in some ways that going to school can really do that, is put a child in the middle, especially of communicating, right? Because it seems like there's not the technology across the board for the school to be taking care of that, communicating to whatever adults are involved in their lives. So yeah, there definitely seems like maybe there needs to be some changes being made so that kids aren't stuck being the messenger. So our next question, when it comes to step families, in your experiences, do teachers often, are they proactive in offering to help children make gifts and cards for step parents for, say, Mother's Day, Father's Day, holidays and things like that? Or do you see it more of the child has to come to the teacher and say, I want to make a card for my stepmom or my stepdad? What do you see in the classrooms?
And that's a really great question, because this is where students can feel very stressed out because, for example, I don't work directly in the classroom this past year. However, I do go in and help teach throughout the day. And I was helping make a Mother's Day gift for the class. And so I went to the teacher and I said, okay, which students have, step families? And, because I would like to make sure that if they have a mom and a stepmom, if they were willing, I would let them have 2 craft projects. And the teacher just kind of looked at me and she's like, I had never thought of that. And I said, yeah, I'm like, I'm a stepmom. I don't feel as though I deserve stuff on Mother's Day, but I never got any craft projects on Mother's Day for that. And that kind of always kind of sit with me. And so when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that the children out there, or the students, are able to make one for each parent if they choose to. And so she started counting literally on her hand. She's like, yeah, there's 3 students in here that have stepmoms. I said, great. I go, do you think it'd be okay if I, went to them and said, hey, would you like to make 2 craft projects? And she's like, yeah. And then that's where she kind of started telling me a little story about that's a sticky situation as well. I don't think as though we should, talk to the student about making 2 because there's a high conflict situation there, and so that's where it starts to get kind of hard, because you don't want to put the child in the middle of making 2 projects. And then now they're going to get yelled at because we offered it. Mm-hmm. So then that's where the teachers are put in the middle as well.
Yeah, it's challenging. It's almost like everybody's put in the middle in their own way from different perspectives. And I think that's where it's on the parents involved in the blended and step families to take a step back and look at what's in the best interest of the child. Or that's at least the most ideal situation that we would hope for.
Yeah. And so that's kind of where it's like, you do or you don't. The teachers are just like, I don't want to get involved, but I want to be there for my student because I know they love both parents.
Yeah, to that point, what are some tips or tricks that you would offer for teachers and parents about how to better partner together to minimize how the child's being put in the middle, whether it's in those types of situations or in basic communication or at activities that are taking place at the school?
Yeah, I think communication is key. Communicate to the parents right from the beginning of the school year, letting them know, hey, I see you have, a step family, a blended family. How would you like me to handle this situation from the beginning? Do you guys get along? Is there high conflict? Can I talk to the stepmom? Can I talk to the stepdad? What are the obligations? So I think the teacher needs to kind of put her boundaries up right at the beginning of the school year. And I think a lot of teachers don't understand that. I actually had a teacher approach me this year, and she found out I was a step family coach. And she said to me, she goes, "You're a step family coach? I didn't know there was such a thing." She's like, "You guys need to help us within the school district." They're like, "We need help. The conferences," she was just going off. She's like, "I could write you a list, you know, so I was like, oh, wow. Like, you know, you don't think how much troubles they have and they don't know where to turn to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think even just educating the teachers who are just starting the school too, like the young, fresh out of college, they have no idea as well how to work with blended families and step families. So I think just even educating them on how to communicate with families would be key.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I mean, could you imagine if more step families had the tools that we've developed as coaches, you know, the things that we've learned from trial and error, if they had those and if it was implemented into the schools to support both the teachers and the families, that would be incredible.
Yeah, and I mean, and especially for families, for us to even communicate to the teachers so the teachers aren't put in the middle of that as well. I think if the families understood how much stress it puts on the teachers, I think even if we as, you know, adults come to them and say, hey, this is what we would like from you to work with us in the future. And, you know, I know it'd be an every year situation, every grade, but, you know, once the kids get in middle school and high school, they can kind of go off on their own. But especially elementary, that's where I think communication is key.
Seems to be a common theme in step families.
It really does.
Absolutely.
I love that you said or suggested that everybody starts at the beginning of the school year talking about this, because in parent-teacher conferences, and of course, parent-teacher conference is a stress point anyway for everybody, because parents are walking in like, am I going to hear something good, something awful? These poor teachers are like, here we go again, you know, with the same kids. So, but then when you bring in the step family dynamic, and then who gets to come to the parent-teacher conference? Is there one for mom and stepdad and one for dad and stepmom? You know, it's like, how do you manipulate all of that at the same time? I love that you suggested everybody start fresh at the beginning of the school year. But even for parent-teacher conferences, is there anything specifically for those that you would recommend parents do or teachers do to make that whole mess a little less messy?
I think when teachers are doing conferences, I think the parents that show up, each one should be equally as important. So you shouldn't just look directly at mom or directly look at dad. You should look at stepdad. You should look at mom. You should look at dad. You should look at stepmom. Each one, treat them all as equal, because otherwise you're going to have the pointing game. Oh, you're just talking to her, or you're just talking to her. I'm the main parent. No, I'm the main parent. So I think if the teachers treat each parent equal, I think that is where it would help out a lot. And if the teachers can come prepared with having 2 sets of information, so be like, you know, here's your copies that we're going to talk about, just hand both to each sets of parents. So that way the teachers are prepared. And so that way they're not like, well, let me see what you're talking about. Let me see what you're talking about.
Love it.
So I think as long as the teachers are prepared and they can just diffuse any conflict that may arise, I think that would be a key to that situation.
Perfect. Thank you.
So when it comes to school itself, is there any support services that you're aware of that step families can kind of be guided to if they're having trouble?
Yeah, I know. I don't know how every school district is, but within our school district, if they are having any problems, I know we have the guidance counselor, not the guidance counselor, the social worker within the school. So every school usually has a social worker that works a lot with trauma or, you know, just different child issues. So you can contact the school directly. You can speak to the principal there, and they can also help you direct you to the right direction on that, you know, because it all depends there. Not every school district may have a social worker, so maybe the principal would be someone that you would talk to, or the vice principal.
That's great. It's good to have resources, especially for the kids in these situations.
Yeah.
So knowing that we're getting close to back to school time, depending on, I know that varies depending on where you live in the world. Are there any things that blended families should be talking about to prepare for back to school, to have those proactive conversations?
I think that if both sets of parents can communicate with each other, like I mentioned earlier, set those boundaries right at the beginning of the school. That way you know where each parent will be at, you know, say with pickups and drop-offs of the school, or, conferences, or, if the child is having, troubles at school, what are we going to do? Who's going to contact the teacher? Who is the teacher going to contact? Mom first or dad first? Who's going to get the first phone call? Are you going to be okay with it? I think just the communications, make a list on, things you may have seen in the past, and just kind of squash it out at the beginning.
Yeah, that's the most ideal situation, right?
I know it's not easy because there's not always agreement on that, but I think that could help not put the child in the middle when there is a sticky situation.
Well, and I think, setting some ground rules and agreeing on things of, you call this parent first on their week, or this parent, and including the kids in what's in their best interest, and being willing to have the courageous conversations, even though they're not always easy to have. It saves a lot of arguments down the road.
And following up with that too, because I've got educators in my family and a lot of friends who are teachers, and the shared custody thing, we need to remember as parents that our teachers have 27, 30 kids in a classroom. They cannot possibly remember everybody's week of who sees mom, who sees dad. So for parents, I'm going to send a little message for parents. If you could just be patient with the teachers, because your child is important to that teacher, but so are the other 28, 29 students in that room. So grace and patience in those situations, because those teachers are under the gun. They're trying to get stuff done too. So if something slips between the cracks, it's a nice email, hey, just wonder if we could figure out how to work this out a little better. What I think would be so helpful, because I've talked to a lot of teachers who are like, I can't keep track. I literally cannot keep track. So they can't keep track. How am I supposed to keep track? So
yeah, no, that's a great tip, because that, you don't think about that. You think about your child and your child only. I need your full attention, but so does 28, 29 other parents want your full attention too. And so the teachers are being pulled, and if they mess up once, it's, usually game over on that for them. So that's a great tip. Thank you for bringing that up.
Oh, absolutely. So Val, any final thoughts, words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners as we close up this discussion?
Yeah, be patient. I mean, it's not easy sending your child to school, and it's not easy for the child to be in school. I've seen a lot of children cry because of a situation that's going on at home. They do tell us stories. So we, as teachers, we understand that the children are stressed out. And so just be patient with the teachers, be patient with your child, and, be patient with your other co-parent with education and going back to school.
I love all of that. Such important reminders for all of us. Never hurts to hear it again. Thank you so much, Val. We appreciate you sharing all of your wisdom and best practices. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you and connect?
Yeah, they can definitely go to my website. It's www.stepfamilylifecoaching.com, or you can also find me on Instagram. I'm known as Minnesota Mrs. Mom on Instagram. So give me a like and a follow, and we'll go from there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And thank you for tuning in and listening. We hope that this conversation has been helpful and had some key takeaways for you. If you'd like to listen to more episodes of the Stepfamily Saturday series, you can find them on our website at stepfamilyguides.com, or on YouTube by searching Stepfamily Guides. And you can always connect with us on Instagram at Stepfamily Guides. Look forward to tuning in next Saturday. Have a beautiful day.